So, about to pass Doherty Park, probably be at Hershey Park in about an hour. I'm going to go ahead and talk about Hershey Park a little bit, because this is a park that was new to me this year, and I've actually gone quite a few times now. Usually for just only part of a day. But Hershey Park's actually one of my favorite parks. They've got a really good coaster collection, in my opinion at least. They've got 3 Intamins, and their Intamins typically run. They don't really typically break too much. And Skyrush is one of my favorite coasters. So they got 3 Intamins. They've got the wooden coasters, the Lightning Racer, which is one of my favorite wooden coasters. Wildcat, which isn't, which I like Wildcat. Some people think it's rough. And it is a little bit rough, but it's fun. And Comet, which is like their old classic woody. They have Great Bear, which is a B&M inverted coaster, which is kind of unique the way that it's laid out, which is a lot of fun. And they've got some other smaller coasters, like they've got the Mine Train coaster, I think it's called Trailblazer, and then they've got Laugh Track, which is new for this year, which is pretty cool. It's an indoor spinning coaster with some theming inside, which it's good. I mean, it's good for what it is. I typically have to wait an hour for it. I don't want to wait an hour for it, so I probably won't do it today, especially because I'm only going to be there for like half the day. But yeah, Hershey Park overall, to me, like, it's one of my favorite parks, just because like they have really good variety in their coaster collection. Just because they've got some good wooden coasters and they've got some good steel coasters. They don't really have like a bad coaster. And they've got, like I said, almost every kind of coaster. You got a launch coaster in Storm Runner, which is actually like a pretty good accelerator coaster if you know how to like avoid the head banging, which is basically like if you just hold on to the restraints and you push against the turns, and you can avoid banging your head. They've got, I guess, kind of a looping Intamin in Fahrenheit, which I think I like Fahrenheit. I think it's a little bit overrated. I think that it's typically like one of the longest lines in the park, even though like even longer than Skyrush, which always perplexes me. And then you have, of course, Skyrush, which is awesome. Some of the most intense airtime you'll find on any coaster, really. And one of my favorite coasters. Yeah, and then you also have like a Super Duper Looper, which is nice because it's a Schwarzkopf coaster, and I like Schwarzkopf coasters in general. Not as intense as like some of the smaller, I guess, traveling models that don't really, well, in the States never really travel, but the ones that, they've moved around a lot. But yeah, so I like Hershey Park a lot. Hershey Park's kind of funny though, like if you ever like go online and read reviews about Hershey Park, like if you're doing your research and you've never been there and you want to kind of get a sense of what the park is, you find kind of a lot of mixed things. Mainly like people complain about just how busy it is all the time, and the fact that it's super busy and that it's laid out kind of weird, and it is laid out kind of weird. Which I'll show you around when I get there, but I've never really had a problem with it. Like, yeah, it is always busy. Like, it is always really busy when I've gone, especially because I typically go on Saturdays, which you don't really want to do, but I end up having to do. But the thing about it is, like, the crowds move a lot. So, like, and they have this app, which is just like the Hershey Park app. And the app actually has wait times on it, which, in my experience, is fairly reliable. I don't know that they get updated as much as they should, but it's fairly reliable. And it's nice because, like, usually what I do is, like, while I'm waiting in line for a ride, I'll look at the app and see where the waits are lower, and then I'll end up just going to that side of the park. And typically what happens is, like, everybody will be all in one area of the park, and so like all the lines in that side of the park will be super long, but then another part of the park will be completely dead. And so basically, like, every ride at Hershey Park at some point during the day, every day that I've gone there, will have like a short line. Like even the good rides, like Skyrush, I've been there on a busy day, like on a Saturday, and like even in the middle of the afternoon, gotten on Sky Rush in like 10-15 minutes. When in another part of the day, the line's at an hour. It doesn't really make any sense, but it works out. Like if you kind of follow the app, like generally what I do is like as soon as I see that wait time is lowered, I immediately go to the ride, because typically what will happen is people will actually look at the app and then everybody kind of rushes to that part of the park as soon as they see that the wait times are lower. So like if you see a 15-minute wait on Sky Rush on the app, go ride Sky Rush right then, because usually what will happen is if you wait a little bit, then that wait will go up to like 30 minutes or so after a short period of time, because everybody rushes over there when they see that it's 15 minutes. But some rides like Lightning Racer, which in my opinion is one of the best rides in the park, typically like I've never really waited for it, even on a busy day. Maybe it's because it's so far away from everything else. But yeah, it's nice because like even if it is super busy, which it does get really super busy, sometimes the midways get a little bit clogged up with people and they kind of stop in the middle of the midway, which is really annoying, especially when it's like a big group of people and you're just trying to get walk past and they're just in the way. But in terms of the lines, like, yeah, I mean, there's going to be some long lines. Laugh Track's going to be really long because it was new this year. Fahrenheit's usually pretty long. Fahrenheit, I think on average, is about 45 minutes. And it just kind of moves slow because of the capacity on it. But at the same time, like every single one of those rides that has a long line at some point, with maybe the exception of Fahrenheit and Laugh Track, at some point the lines will be shorter for those rides. So that's one of my tips for Hersheypark is get the app and kind of like monitor it, because I think you'll probably find what I find, where if you know at least know how to get around the park, at least like which side of the park the rides are on, then the app really is useful because it's usually like fairly accurate. But yeah, so I'm excited to actually finally get on some coasters. And the last time I went to a park was when I went on my big road trip last month for Labor Day. So I'm excited to get to some parks. In terms of other aspects of the park, so Hersheypark, they've got quite a few flat rides. I wouldn't say that they have like a super good flat ride collection. They have some kind of unique flat rides. But they've got some flat rides, they've got some shows, stuff like that. They also have Zoo America, which is like a little zoo area, which I've never actually gone through, but it is free with your admission. If you buy like a ticket to Hersheypark, you can go to Zoo America. You can buy a separate ticket for Zoo America, but to me that seems kind of pointless because, why are you going to do that when you can just buy a ticket to Hershey and get the zoo with it? There's also Chocolate World, which is basically just like a big chocolate store, and they got some other stuff in there, like they have a dark ride, which is free, or they like give you a tour of how they make Hershey's chocolate, which I've still actually haven't ever done, but a lot of people say it's good, so eventually one of these days I'll actually get to it. But yeah, so another good thing, like the operations at Hershey are usually pretty good. We'll see how we'll see if it stays that way today. Usually the operations are pretty good. Like I've never had any problems with the operations. The only problem is like, you have rides like Fahrenheit, which is lower capacity. So the line does move slower, but they still do a pretty good job of getting trains out. But yeah, so overall, like it's a pretty good park, and it's one of my favorite parks, mainly just because of the coaster collection. Is diverse, and all the coasters are pretty good. Like there's not a bad coaster. But yeah, so I have a Hershey season pass, which I got this year, and one of the nice things is it's like a lot of other season passes where you get like coupons and stuff like that. Which Hershey, they actually give you like an old school like coupon book, which I actually haven't really used because the coupons aren't super helpful. But I'm pretty sure you do get like I think 15-20% off on like food and merchandise and stuff like that, which is good. But you do also get free parking, and the nice thing about Hershey's free parking with their pass is you actually get to park closer, because like Hershey has this massive complex and parking lot because they have the stadium there as well, a sports complex there. And if you don't park in season pass parking, you're parked pretty far away, and you pretty much have to take a tram. But the season pass parking is actually really close to the entrance, so you can just park and walk in. So if you're going to go to Hershey more than once a year, I definitely recommend like getting that pass, because even just the parking alone is, I think, worth it. It is a little bit pricey, mainly because you're only getting a pass for really the one park. They do have one that includes Dutch Wonderland, which is like kind of a kiddie park. But I think you're looking at, for the Hershey pass, I think I paid like around $140, $150 for mine, which isn't too bad for a season pass, but kind of, you know, a little bit up there just because it's only for the one park, really. But that being said, Hershey Park's a great park, so I've definitely made use out of it. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to get back to Hershey, because it's been a little while since I've been there. And this will probably be the last time I get to go there this year. I may try to go. They do have like a holiday event for like the winter, holiday in the park kind of event. I forget what they call theirs. But I know that they don't have everything open. I think they probably have a decent amount of stuff open, as long as it's not too cold for them to operate it. But from what I can tell, for their October event, pretty much every coaster should be open. I mean, I'm assuming everything is going to be open, weather permitting, which it's pretty chilly, but I don't think it's like cold enough for rides not to operate. So hopefully today everything will run. But yeah, so I'm excited to get to Hershey Park. I'll definitely take you around the park, and yeah, I'll see you when I get to the park.